Hey everyone, James with tfbtv. I'm about to get on my plane to go to SHOT Show, and if you're anything like I am, you're constantly worried when you go through TSA security that you're going to go through with a gun. Of course, I'm going through security, kind of freaking out a little bit. Make it through, okay, no gats this time. But it makes you wonder. I'm sitting there, I'm going through TSA, and I'm like, I wonder which airport confiscates the most guns per year. As it just so happens, what a coincidence, I've got the data thanks to a viewer, Cliff, who sent in the TSA database. So I've got a spreadsheet from Cliff that I put in the description that has all the details for all the airports, how many guns they confiscated in 2019. When you think about which airport probably confiscated the most guns, Atlanta, right? It had 107 million passengers last year. So they confiscated 323 handguns. But if you do the math, that's just about 3 guns per million passengers. So that's actually not a whole heck of a lot. Here in my home airport of New Orleans, they confiscated 50 guns for 10 million passengers. So that's 5 per million. And New Orleans is only number 9 on the list. So let's talk about the top 5. And here's how we're going to do it. We're going to make a little game out of it. I'm going to give you guys some hints, see if you can guess the airport that I'm talking about for the top 5. Now, we're only using 27 airports because there were only 27 airports that confiscated more than 50 guns in 2019. Over 4,300 handguns were confiscated in airports in 2019, and surprisingly, of the top 5, only 2 of them are from Texas. So let's get into the list. Time to kick this list off with number 5. This airport in Texas was opened in July 1942. Originally, it was a World War II military training base for pilots of the 77th Reconnaissance Group. In addition to training, it was also used as a base for anti-submarine patrols in the Gulf of Mexico. This airport gets 10 million passengers a year, and they seized 60 guns in 2019. That's 6 guns per million passengers. Finally, for the big giveaway, the original name of this airport was Alamo Field. That's right, you guessed it, SAT, or San Antonio Airport. I used to know a good joke about the Alamo, but I don't remember it. Number 4, I love this one. This field only has 16 million people annually, but they seized 103 guns last year, giving it a very good flyer-to-fire rating of 6.4 gats per million passengers. Originally opened in 1917 as a World War I training facility, the U.S. Army Air Service trained here. Primary training took 8 weeks, and it consisted of pilots learning basic flight skills under dual and solo instruction. After completion of primary training at this airfield, cadets were then transferred to another base for advanced training. Pilots from this field were renowned for excellent combat records in Europe. And it was at this airport on November 29, 1949, American Airlines Flight 157 from New York City with 46 passengers and crew slid off the runway after the crew lost control on final approach. The airliner struck buildings nearby and caught fire, killing 28 people. It was the deadliest air disaster in the state's history at the time, and it remains the deadliest crash at this airfield. This airport's named after an Army aviator who died in an airplane crash in 1913 when his biplane crashed during practice for his military aviator test. He was only the 10th fatality in U.S. Army aviation history. His name was Moss Love. That's right, we're talking about Dallas Love Field, which surprisingly has the most guns per passenger of all the airports in the state of Texas. Texas, I thought you were going to do way better than that. I guess the main issue is you guys have too many airports, so they're all spread around. In fact, I think in the 1950s and 1960s, they used to check passengers for weapons at Love Field, and if they didn't find any, they'd give them one. By the way, you guys want to make sure your gun gets intercepted? Maybe paint it like this. Now to the third most gun-filled airport, which is from the Midwest, and holy moly, it ain't Chicago. Even though Chicago is the gun crime capital of the United States, O'Hare had only 0.6 guns per million passengers, so it's really low on the list. This number 3 airport opened in 1931. On October 20, 1987, a U.S. Air Force A-7D Corsair crashed into a Ramada Inn near the airport after the pilot was forced to eject because of an engine malfunction. 10 people were killed, 9 of them being hotel employees at the Ramada. For 32 years, it was called Weir Cook Municipal Airport, after U.S. Army Air Force Colonel Harvey Weir Cook from Wilkinson, Indiana, who became a flying ace during World War I with 7 victories. He died flying in World War II. So get a frozen custard for your fat ass and make sure that you stop bringing your guns into Indianapolis International Airport. They only had 9 million passengers in 2018, but last year they picked up 62 guns, giving them a respectable score of 6.9 guns per million. The number 2 airport is from my home state of Florida. It's a smaller airport, serving only 2 million passengers per year in the 80s and 6.4 million passengers in 2018. Unfortunately, most of them mouth-breathing Florida Gator fans. This airport's interesting because it's also a small Air Force base with 1,300 military personnel on site. It's home to the 125th Fighter Wing of the Florida Air National Guard, or FANG, and they operate F-15C and F-15D Eagle aircraft. It also hosts an Air Force crash fire rescue station. And even though this airport only had a little over 6 million passengers in 2018, last year they confiscated 51 handguns. You couldn't be blamed for trying to bring a gun to this airport because George Giff in 1971 hijacked a plane and flew it here. And after he was cornered by the FBI, he shot the pilot, his wife, and then himself. I bet a few people had their flights canceled that day. Dulles International in DC has 4 times the traffic of this airport, but they seized 2.5 times as many guns from passengers here in Jacksonville International. The official airport of Florida, man, has 8.5 guns seized for every million passengers. Now moving on to number 1, this random-ass airport seized 50 guns for only 4 million passengers last year, giving it a score of 12.5 guns per million passengers, blowing number 2 out of the water. This airport's named after a comedian, actor, and cowboy who was born in the state and who died in an Alaskan plane crash in 1935. This is the only airport to define itself not as a regional or international airport, but as a world airport. I find that particularly hysterical because it does not have one single flight out of the lower 48 states, much less the country or the world. U.S. Customs and Border Patrol operate their national training facility at this airport, and they operate a hangar on the north side of the airport off Taxiway N. This field also hosts the Museum of Women Pilots. And in perhaps the most bizarre crime to occur on this property, in 2016, a drunk and disgruntled former Southwest Airlines employee apparently randomly shot an SWA ramp worker in a parking garage there. The ramp worker was Michael Winchester, a punter for the 1985 National College Champions, the Oklahoma Sooners football team. With that crime still being fairly recent, don't expect a ride in the Surrey with a fringe on top if the TSA busts you with a heater in Oklahoma City's Will Rogers World Airport, which had 12.5 guns seized per million passengers. OKC runs laps around the other airports on this list. To put it into context, Philadelphia, Liberty Newark, and Boston's Logan International Airport had 120 million passengers combined in 2018. And even though these airports altogether have 30 times the traffic as Will Rogers, 50 guns were confiscated in OKC last year compared to a total of 49 guns seized from Philly, Liberty, and Logan together. So that's it for the list. I guess congratulations, Oklahoma City. You guys have the highest gun-to-passenger score in the nation. And if you want to hear number 6 through 10 real quick, number 6 is Kansas City with 5.6 guns per million, Nashville with 5.4, Raleigh-Durham with 5.4, New Orleans, my hometown, with 5 per mil, and Austin with 4.9 guns per million. I'll put a link to the sheet in the description below if you guys want to poke around. Pretty interesting list, right? I think the main takeaway is at smaller regional airports, you're going to have more gun confiscations because you're going to have fewer international travelers, you're going to have fewer passengers who are making connections, you're going to have fewer experienced travelers who might fly into like mega airports. So I think that what happens is you have like mom and pop loading up to go see the kids, and then they forget about a gun that they had in a bag that they hadn't packed in like 2 years. You know, what a terrible way for grandpa to find his old J-frame. Guys, thanks a ton as usual for watching. Thank you to Cliff for sending in this tip. Again, if you guys have tips for us, we're more than willing to check them out. Don't forget to support us on Patreon or Subscribestar. We really need your assistance now that about half of our videos have been demonetized by YouTube. Speaking of assistance, thanks a ton to Blue Alpha Gear and, of course, to Ventura Munitions, the best ammo store in the entire world. But thanks to you guys for watching. I will see you at SHOT Show.